start in about a minute, waiting for a few more people to join. So in a minute, then our first dialogue on challenges in remote working will start. Just a minute. Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome. Good afternoon if you're in Europe. Good morning if you're in the US. Good evening if you're in India. And well, if you're from Australia, it's not a good time to join this now. No. So then, thank you for being here. I will guide you to this workshop today, through this dialogue today on challenges in remote working. Next slide. And my name is André Martinuzzi. I'm coordinator of the Living Innovation Project. I'm director of the Institute for Managing Sustainability. Before I guide you through the evening, through the morning, through the night, please ensure that your chat function, you know where it is. I'm sure you know how to use Zoom, but you will need it later on. So the chat function will be used for questions. These questions will be summarized by me, the moderator, and two facilitators who help me to summarize whatever you put into the chat. Please mute yourself unless you speak. We have to avoid background noise. By now we have 64 participants. If everybody now switches on his mic, it would not work at all. So please mute yourself unless you speak. We are recording and broadcasting this session. We are recording it and broadcasting at the same time via YouTube. If you don't want to be heard, if you don't want to be seen, if you don't want to get the world to know that you're here, then please switch to YouTube. That's the anonymous channel. There nobody knows that you're watching except YouTube. Here the others know that you're here. So this is just because of GDPR. Also, in the later breakout sessions, we will record. This will not be broadcasted. It's just for research purposes and to allow us to summarize what happened during this event. So what can you expect today? Next slide, please. An introduction, this is what I'm currently doing. Then 3 keynote presentations. I will introduce the keynote speakers in just a few minutes. It's Sabine Aigner. She will give a presentation on virtual team leadership. Sabine, thank you very much for joining. Jan Hickisch from UNIFY Atos on exploring emerging technologies. Thank you, Jan, for being here. And Stefan Schennach, member of the Council of Europe, about the policy role. What role can policy play? Then we will have about 25 minutes for questions and answers. Every question that comes to your mind, please put it into the chat. In the meantime, we will summarize it. Then we will ask our 3 keynote speakers these questions. Then I will have a brief recap and some announcements about future dialogues. And at 5:30, we go into something we call conversations. You could also call it breakout sessions. These will be smaller groups where you then can bilaterally also discuss with our 3 experts or among each other. So this is the place where it really gets into direct contact with the 3 keynote presentations with already It's just a matter of fact, it would not work in a very interactive way. We do our best. So what we will do next is to introduce. So what is the whole thing about? A little bit of context. This event is run in the series of events in a European project. The project is called Living Innovation. It's a large project. It's a 3.5 years project. We prepared a lot of interesting things in this project. Started 3 years ago by 14 partners from industry, and it's about to co-create more responsible approaches to innovation, co-create the way we will live in the future, and working from home and homeschooling and all of that stuff now became very, very important during the last month. So with all the problems we had with this COVID crisis, it changes the way we live forever. A lot of things are here to stay, and this is exactly what this project is about. So the project consists of a virtual community platform and some responsible innovation labs. Many of them already took place. If you want to join this kind of interactive co-creation of new innovative technologies, join our responsible innovation corners. They will be organized during the next month and be part of this community. Some of you already registered at the livinginnovation.net platform. If you haven't done so by now and you think this is a great event today, please stay in touch. We can invite you, we can bring you in touch with other experts of your area of interest. We run several so-called joint actions, virtual joint actions. One of them is this one you're attending today. That's about challenges of remote working. There are others about exploring the business case for responsible innovation. We will co-create scenarios of Living 2030. The responsible innovation corners I already mentioned. There are some other joint actions about affordable smart homes, smart health cases, inclusive innovation, and distant learning. If this is of interest to you, please join us. We will keep you informed. We will invite you. There are a lot of ways to collaborate and to team up. So when we talk about challenges of remote working, is this the way how it looks? Is this showing how you think it works? If you're a manager, if you're a leader, do you think your staff members sit home like that? It looks like that? Or does it look like that? Or rather like that? Or do you think it looks like that? How do you think that working remote works? What are your experiences? Which challenges did you experience during the last 8 months? As an employee, as an expert, as a manager, as a top manager, let us know. Please write a few words into the chat box. You find the chat box down there. So if you are not familiar with Zoom, there is a chat box down there. You push chat and then you write something into the chat and let us know a little bit about what challenges did you experience. Just a few words. We would like to get a little bit of feeling of what challenges you had. So we're curious to know what challenges, work-life balance, bandwidth problems, like living at work, family, kids, other people, small apartment. What else did you experience? Less traveling, stressful, work never stops, homeschooling, find a room to work, bedroom doesn't look very professional, time management, any other, missing people, getting a little bit lonely. Yeah, lonely, there it is. No breaks, always on, not an isolation. Zoom fatigue. Hopefully you're not so fatigued that you now switch off while we're doing this Zoom session. So, any more experiences? Any more challenges? How do people feel? Yeah, that's something I'm thinking about now as well. Paperless work, no travel at all. Need to manage yourself. Okay. I think many of these aspects will be taken up by our experts today. No coffee breaks, no informal. Trapped, no real interaction. Well, let's try to have a turn to the potential solutions. Next slide, please. Potential solutions, innovation. Sometimes the problem already is the first step to the solution. A sound view, an in-depth view on the problem might help us to find solutions. And this is the point where responsible innovation comes in, a concept that has been put forward by the European Commission for many, many years, where a lot of innovative projects have been funded, also our project, the Living Innovation Project. And this is a kind of explanation. What is responsible innovation? It sounds good. No question. It sounds good. Responsible sounds good. Innovation sounds good as well. But what does it mean together? So for what does it mean regarding responsibility? It's responsibility for impacts. That's one first part. So responsible innovation means not just to develop any kind of technology, any kind of product, and not caring what happens later. It's about extending the view to the use phase, perhaps to the disposal phase, perhaps to the recycling phase, whatever impact it might have. And it means to innovate with a purpose. And for the business, this means to reduce risks, to reduce costs, because unforeseen impacts of any kind of chemical substance, of any kind of technology, is high risk, is high cost, and might even risk the license to operate. Responsible innovation also means to take stakeholders into account, not just customers, but to think about the needs of people. So responsibility towards stakeholders and to innovate with the people and for the people. And this is why responsible innovation is such a good idea, because you get more creative, you have more and better fitting ideas. And there's a third aspect. This is about the systemic aspect of responsible innovation. This means to innovate at a higher level, to co-design whole systems, not just to think about markets, competitors, and so on, but to team up and co-design whole systems. This means radical innovation. This means game changer. What does this mean now for our work at home? So we have certain technologies. So perhaps when you now worked for the last month from home, it looked like that. But it could also look like that. Or could it look like that in the future? Or is this the future? So what kind of technologies are most helpful for you? Were most helpful and are most helpful for you? Please write a few words into the chat box. Which technologies are most helpful when we talk about remote working? Just a few moments. Augmented reality. Wow. Google Glasses. Mhm. So all of us now became familiar with Teams and Zoom and mails and so on. More to come up. That's the point. What's really interesting. Neural platform. Oh, virtual whiteboards. Okay. So we will hear from Jan Hickisch what kind of technologies, what kind of solutions might be important for the future. And this is the right moment. Yes, you're right. Next slide, please, to introduce our three keynote speakers. Sabine Aigner, she's partner at SPENCER STUART, which is a global executive search and consulting firm. She has a broad overview and very good contacts to a lot of top managers and managers. She talks to them every day. And we asked her for this keynote presentation because she does not talk only about her own experiences. She can give us brilliant insights. What were the challenges of managers during the last months? So this is about the business perspective. Then our second speaker is Jan Hickisch. He's Vice President, Global Portfolio Strategy and Marketing at UNIFY, which is an Atos company, which is an ICT company. He brings in the technology perspective. And our third keynote speaker, Stefan Schennach, he's member of the Council of Europe. He's a policymaker, so he will talk about the policy angles today. Whenever you have a question to our three keynote speakers during their presentations, please write them into the chat box. You got familiar to the chat box before, so you know how to do it. Please just write something into the chat box, whatever question you might have. We will then summarize the questions at the end of the three keynote presentations. So without any further ado, Sabine Aigner, the floor is yours. And you have to unmute yourself.
I was waiting for you to unmute. Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Pleased to meet you. Thank you for your participation, and thank you, the team around Andre Martinuzzi, for organizing this event. I was supposed to speak about virtual team leadership, but before moving into techniques and methodologies, give me a second to pause. Because we were running, we were stumbling into that new situation. We thought it's going to last for a couple of weeks or months, and we continued running and find solutions. Looking back, you may not recall the 26th of November afternoon, 2019, but you may have been on an airport and waiting for a connecting flight, everything super crowded. You may have been in a traffic jam in between two business meetings, your assistant on the phone, rescheduling the one or the other next meeting. You may have been with a customer in a tough negotiation. You may have been looking forward to a pleasant business dinner in a nice restaurant in Paris, Tokyo, or London. You may have found yourself in a budget meeting, when a leadership team meeting and your people were presenting and drinking coffee and making jokes in the break. How many hands do you think did you shake that day a year ago? How many arms or shoulders did you touch in order to encourage somebody, to congratulate somebody? Where are you today? In the office? In your home office? And even more interesting, where are your people today? In the living room, as we saw, or in the kitchen, at the kitchen desk? And how do they feel in this time of uncertainty? Many new topics, complexity we call it, but what is it? Questions of questions every day. And in isolation. So the singles find themselves in isolations, and the young families maybe have no space to, which was designed for delivering to office spaces, right? So we were quite good at this, and we adapted very fast. But I think we were running. And that is why I wanted you to remember it's not long ago, and we did many things quite differently. I think we can move ahead now with the presentation, but I wanted you to have in mind, it's not long back, and we were quite good at running. So what is the situation? Maybe we can already switch to the preliminary note, because I promise you, this topic has so many aspects: social, psychological, environmental, technical. I will discipline myself and only talk about leadership, because it's the role I have been given here. It's something I deal with every day. And it matters more than ever. We call it complex challenges, but it's really, it's so many things new for your teams, for the leaders themselves. We are continuously in a trial and error mode, and we need to be tolerant with one another, because not everything will work at the first time. Team members are quite unhappy from time to time with the leaders. They don't see a direction. They are missing effectiveness. They don't see a sense in many things that are done. And on the other side, leaders are measured for their performance, but they depend on the performance of their team. So how can you do that in a two-dimensional world? So I would say we all agree high importance of soft skills is key. And my hypothesis is, may sound provocative, but my hypothesis is, in times when we wear masks, we see the real face, because in an extreme situation, you're unmasked, you cannot hide. And this is also a chance for all leaders to show what they really can deliver. So what are the real questions? If we can have a look at the questions. It sounds so simple. How do we build trust? It's crucial, we all agree. How do we manage performance? In a world like this, we need to perform. Yeah, it's not done if the meeting is over. How do we get that to the individual? How do we communicate? How can we motivate, inspire, buy people in, get their support? How can we manage conflicts from a distance? What you normally did, I don't know, yeah, with a lunch break. How can you organize meetings most effectively? Because already Peter Drucker knew either you meet or you work. So a lot of questions, but I think while suffering and running, the last months have a lot of positive aspects, and I hope we can conclude the session with a summary on that as well. So let's go to the first question, trust. I think we all agree if you don't have trust, you don't have a real team. And the challenge is twofolded. On the one hand, you need to create trust between you as a leader and the team members. But what you also need to achieve is to make them feel and behave as a team. They're sitting in their kitchen, they're sitting in their living rooms, they're not side by side. They don't find these, we called it often small areas of common interest. So you recommend a restaurant, you speak about your children, sports, whatever. You don't do this now. So we asked our clients every day, by the way, I don't finish any conversation with these questions. What do you do? What do you experience? So what has worked well to keep or build, maintain trust is to invent something like a task-based trust, to ask people to define a project and then build smaller teams. And through the work of doing something together, can also be, I don't know, social initiatives, yeah, common initiatives. Yeah, they have something in common to follow up with and organize themselves, which is another key element for success. And of course, you need to check from time to time if these projects are progressing. So I think these task-based instruments have helped to create trust. Another question is, how do you make people feel responsible, accountable? That's on the next slide to see. How do you achieve delivery without physical proximity? And people may super struggle with structuring their day. This is what many of our clients and business partners are facing. People find themselves with an unstructured day. The only structure is given by the IT, by the sessions planned, yeah? But you really need to help them prioritizing. And you should not, whilst you need to periodically check in, yeah? You should not lean towards micromanaging your team members, which is a stretch. So you need to find the balance. What has worked well in that case is that some clients and business partners report that they totally give up on checking the times when and how long people are online. So they give up on the time performance. They just invite their team members to suggest milestones and try to split targets, break them down into smaller manageable components so that it's natural. It's setting up a natural flow to have milestones, and they need to be respected. So this is one of the things that have worked well. And I think the next question will also help completing that, yeah? Because you can do this, but in order to make it work, you need to to motivate your people and influence the organization, not only your team members, because leadership is not only about running a team of direct reports. You also have to influence your peers. You also have to lead your leaders. You need to buy in and win them for tasks. And I think this is one of the most challenging things leaders have faced in the last month, and a lot of trial and error. Because one thing is clear, you know what you need to achieve, but you don't meet people, so you cannot trust the bonds. We recently also started a survey about the question, how does virtual onboarding work? So we hired people without having met them, but then they start working remotely. They have never been in the office. They have never seen their people. So that's some sort of challenge we didn't expect a year ago. So if we can flip to the next slide, that gives you a little bit of ideas what has worked well. And the first point is already something which you may remember from the other side. You may remember in the first lockdown, the media spread social distancing. It was horrible. What they meant was not social distancing, but it had some impact. They meant physical distancing, but it created a disaster in the hearts and in the mood and in the motivation of people. Social distancing, what does it mean? The opposite needs to be the case. I think you wouldn't hear it now so frequently, but at the beginning it was everywhere, every time. So the opposite is the case, as I said, and you need to create a high-touch environment. It sounds great. What is it about? You need to have the equipment to do it, and you need to reach out to your people continuously. But what has worked well for many is to change the frequencies and to change the channels and to change the topics. So for instance, sometimes after recession, you see that somebody is now obviously concerned, not feeling well. Give them a call on the phone, give them, don't know, send them an email, send them something on WhatsApp. So changing the rhythms of interaction and the channels of interaction has helped. And the other thing is related to my hypothesis. People need to feel an honest interest. If they feel a mask, they don't listen. They switch off, stay in the kitchen, know what they should have answered you, will satisfy the formal requirements, but they switch you off. So they immediately feel if you're not honest, and if you're not honestly interested in their health, physical health, and in their mental health. I'm jumping now to the other topic, but what I heard yesterday, a very big chemical group, US-based, just invented something last week that they forced their people to have a lunch break, even if they are in a home office, because they discovered people don't eat. And if they eat something in front of the screen. And of course, as you may all know, mental health is an issue. There are many professions of sales reps and people who have had a lot of business contacts, external affairs, governmental affairs, people who are used to leave their homes, and now they're sitting in front of a two-dimensional thing and should do everything they have done successfully before differently. So for some people, the world has changed dramatically. And I think, and we have clients, they do it. They reach out, and then the CEOs reach out to call their sales reps, to avoid depression. So as we said again, it's a soft skills world, and it's very important to use a positive language. Nothing else is required now. So I think we can then move to the meetings. As we said, either you meet or work. I'm super convinced that this is perfectly right. So the challenge is, how do I keep everybody informed? Yeah, there are also so many news and technical things to be managed, and there's so many things to be communicated. But I need to take care as a leader, I need to take care that I conduct high impact virtual meetings. And also in this particular case, we need to change the routines. We need to minimize confusing things. And we also need to be aware that some people are multitasking and don't pay attention, and some are not familiar with the tools. And we have different time zones. So what has worked well here is a number of things in a nutshell, not flipping through all the bullet points. On the one hand, try to minimize and focus in the meetings, but also give up on some useless meetings and talk about it, because that raises your credibility significantly. And really listen and stay present honestly. So I think this was the most important about the meetings, and we are close to the end. So what we would say, yes, we were running, yeah. We were stumbling and then we were running, not looking back, only looking forward. But there are positive aspects as well. No traveling. So there's more time in your net account. You have more people you can reach if you don't travel from city and office to office. And you reach people more frequently and in bigger groups. And you can also pop in to a meeting where your team is in a meeting, and then it's quite loved when the CEO is interested and stops by. It's easy for you as a leader. So overall, the situation requires decisions, actions, tolerance, trial and error, understanding, and the readiness to learn and improve. Nobody has the full answer. We can't influence the crisis, I would say. Of course we can't, but we have a choice. We can make all this a success story. For the time being, it should be used, and it should serve to build bridges in times of isolation. And after that, I think we will integrate many of these lessons learned into the flow of working and collaboration. So overall, after some months, which we hope, we may still wear masks, but I really hope that the unmasked, authentic, natural leader will survive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sabine Aigner. So many interesting and inspiring ideas, so many interesting learnings. I think we could have a very, very long discussion on this. So many food for thought. We will pick up some of these issues in a few minutes. Now, we talked about challenges and opportunities. Now we would like to have a deeper view, a deeper dive on technologies. Jan Hickisch is Vice President Global Portfolio Strategy and Marketing at UNIFY, an Atos company, which is a very large IT company. And he will provide us with some insights on the most important technologies now in times of remote working. Jan Hickisch, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot. Also, welcome from my end to everybody, and great to have you here. Yeah, when talking about remote working, technologies are playing an important role, but not necessarily the only role. And what I really want to point out, technology might be a starting point for disruption and for change in behavior, in the way we are working, which right now is required. But it is definitely not the way, or it should not be the way that we are creating some great technology and then we're looking for a problem which we can solve. It's the other way around. So keep in mind, put your customer first, put your employees first. Try to understand the challenges, and then explore what technologies can help you. Now, when we look to the crisis situation, at this point in time, nobody knows when it really will end. And, and honestly, that's not really important right now. Important is how we deal with the situation. And we also need to keep in mind changes we're applying are not necessarily bad in a way that we've done it in a different way before. It's, I think, very positive because we may learn new things and we may apply new ways of how to interact and how to work with each other.
Jan,
This is
sorry
very
to
positive.
interrupt you. You're quite the sound is not very good. Could you come a little bit closer to the mic because
Yeah,
some
I'm
participants.
having it on.
That's
Let's
better
try.
now.
It's better?
Ah, that's better
Yeah,
now.
okay, good.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks. So clearly, when we look forward, we will find new ways of working together, and technology for sure will help. So this is also about adopting those new things, and there will be a new normal because a lot of companies won't go back to old patterns, to old behavior, because they find the new way of working together helpful. In particular, for global sustainability, this is something which will be a huge contribution. So a lot of companies will love to continue and explore what else can be changed. And technology is an enabler for that. That's for sure. Also, one other thing we need to keep in mind when we talk about remote working, people have different things in mind, right? I got to know a lot of customers and people who have not used collaboration solutions like this one here, right? They never used them. So this is a first challenge for them. But I also met a lot of people who use that solution or those kinds of solutions day in, day out. So for instance, my team is spread across the world. I have people sitting in Canada, in UK, in Germany, and in Bulgaria. And for us, it's the standard. So there is even nothing at all which is changing. Of course, there are a lot of things changing. We're also exploring to encourage people to interact more, that's for sure. But that's one thing. Now, think about companies having production environments. Would a session like that, remote collaboration, work for them in controlling their machines? Not at all. That's impossible from a security point of view, from an interaction point of view. How do you ensure that people and machines are working together, or machines and machines are working together, keeping the distancing, the physical distancing? So this is something which we need to keep in mind before we are diving into the technologies. Now let's dive in. And I came up with 5 technologies I want to point out here. Again, clearly, those are not comparable. You cannot put them into categories, right? So, and this was done by intent from my end to show you that technology can be really different things. So let's start on the left upper side, talking about virtual reality, augmented reality, and the new term mixed reality. This for sure is a technology area which is on the rise. And if you look to analysts, industry analysts predicting when this will be, so to say, on the rise, on the high curve, a lot of them have predicted it will be 23 or 25. Now, taking the current challenge and the situation into account, that may rise even earlier. This is something which can help you right now immediately to improve your business, to save your business, to rescue your business. So I will go into more detail in the following slides on that one. One other thing I really want to come up with is no, not yet jumping. I'm just doing a summary on those 5 areas. So one other thing, another category, completely different category, is connectivity and experience. And you could easily argue this is not an emerging technology, not at all. That's correct on the one hand. On the other hand, there are certain things which are important to discuss, which can help to improve the situation. So for instance, 5G is a good example for that. But equally, with that category, I want to point out that it's not good enough to have just the top-notch ideas and technologies in place. You also have to master existing things. in order to support your people and your customers in the best possible way. If you don't master the basics, you won't be successful with the top-notch technologies. Then the left lower side, teaming of people, data, and things. Again, a completely different category. I'm not talking about a protocol or about a very specific technology. This is interaction between people, things, and data. And I already mentioned for production environments, it's important that people are controlling machines and they should be able to remote control those machines now. But in some cases, it's also machines are controlling machines. It doesn't necessarily have to be the case that people are involved in that. So this is putting a completely new perspective on that. But equally, I can also say, even in the standard team meetings where people are working together remotely, we find better ways how to support them in interacting, supporting the moderators, keeping the attention high, giving people the chance to speak up if others speak too much. So kind of trying to in the first hand, analyze who has sufficient speaking time and maybe who needs a little more support to speak up, right? So all those things is important as well. And then last but not least, from a technology point of view, AI-enabled collaboration, so artificial intelligence. And when I talk about collaboration here, I do not just mention the communication element aspect of it. That, of course, is also a critical part. But here it's again about all the interactions and AI. How does AI help and support this whole process? And the fifth element being put in the center is, for some of you, maybe a strange acronym, CPaaS. That is platform as a service. And here in that particular case, communication or collaboration platform as a service. And that is a way, again, a different category, how you're creating solutions, how you're optimizing your environment, how you're orchestrating your different applications so that people can make better use of them. For instance, integrating communication, collaboration, and interaction capabilities into business applications, which makes it a lot easier to take care of your business with integrated capabilities. So those are the 5 categories. I want to go a little more into detail, and now we are able to switch to the next slide, and we can start with the 2 first categories. So virtual augmented mixed reality. I'm pretty sure most of you know what virtual reality and augmented reality is. Now there is a new term called mixed reality or shared reality, which is complementing what virtual and augmented reality can do. So, and this is about introducing a new dimension, for instance, into a communication collaboration session, where you use 3D models to interact with each other. So thinking about an industry use case or a day-to-day business use case, for instance, when a doctor needs to do a telehealth communication with the patient, because the patient doesn't want to go to the hospital, you can easily leverage models of your body parts. So it could be your arm, it could be your skin, it could be your heart, in order to explain how and what needs to be done. On the one hand, what got, so to say, found out, what issues the patient has, and maybe if a second step, maybe a surgery is needed, the doctor can explain how the surgery will happen using the heart, decomposing the heart, and maybe even visualizing what needs to be done. In cases when the patient needs to, so to say, agree to certain things, you can also help the patient to show impact of certain things if you do it or if you don't do it. So that reaches then also the level that you can simulate certain things. So for instance, if you want to show whether a surgery is needed or not needed, and the patient is a smoker and drinks alcohol, and then you could simulate what is going to happen if you don't stop doing this and that, and you show the progress of your heart or other body parts over 3 or 5 years. And then you can do that the reverse way. You show you have a surgery now, and then you will behave this and that way, and everything will be okay. So it's also a help to visualize risk, right? And now you can turn that into manufacturing environments, for instance, companies building big power plants. Right now, nobody can travel around and can visit such a power plant. You can leverage that technology to visualize that. You can work in this power plant. You can simulate data, activities, procedures, which is a great way of improving the experience and making things happen although you're virtual. Let's switch now, get back to basics. Again, I want to balance that. This is really important. No, we need to stay on the right side, the right category. Connectivity and experience. So connectivity is basics nowadays, right? Clearly, but if implemented right, then nobody talks about it. If it's not implemented the right way, then everybody is talking and complaining about it. So this is something you cannot leave out. You need to address those things. You need to understand what is needed for better virtual remote work and virtual remote collaboration. Because if you introduce new capabilities like 3D models, you require more bandwidth, right? So the one doesn't go without the other. So that's why you need to assure you master your base technologies in your environment, and also keep in mind, it's not just depending on you. It's also depending on your customers' network. It's depending on your workers' home network. So you need to analyze, what do you need? You need to give guidance, how to leverage all those new things. The best great technology doesn't work if the prerequisites are not mastered, right? Now, one other thing I want to mention here, in particular, when talking about collaboration, virtual collaboration, WebRTC is one of those great new things. It is a protocol. Finally, we have a protocol to talk about. And this is, so to say, the non plus ultra communication protocol nowadays. It is able to connect you from any device in any environment with the people you want to talk to, you want to see, and you want to share data with. That is great because you can now communicate using your smartphone, your tablet, any computer, any operating system, independently where you are. So if you're at home, great. If you have to be at your mother's house because you need to help her, you still can use it. And now turning a little, again, the business angle on, if you are right now in a situation that your customer is not coming to you because it's not allowed, and your business is right now going south, this would be a great way to engage with your customers through an online shop or through a service you're providing online. And you can talk with your clients, your customers, although they don't come to you, right? So you come to your customers. So digital sales assistants, digital assistants for instance, for giving physical exercises, all those things are possible. So there is no barrier. You can do all and everything. So this is a great example of even base technology can bring you to really the next level and extrapolate your business. Another thing which I have to say is also kind of table stakes, but a lot of people are still using a lot of paper. Digital signage, signing documents, e-signing documents is something which really helps. Instead of printing it out, sending it somewhere, getting a signature, sending it back, you can save all the paper. You can do that in an electronic way, and you can use it in a really secure way. By the way, security is another important thing which has to be table stakes. But keep in mind, because of the remote working situation, you have to be really, really careful and have to put a lot of attention to that all what you're doing is secure. And that's not just the connectivity and the encryption. You also need to assure that documents are not leaving your company space. So you also need to manage your content with permissions in a secure way. Okay, now it's time to switch to the next page, and we can have a look to a teaming of people, data, and things. So this is a great example that without a real technology piece at the end, it's about being smarter and interacting with each other. On the one hand, in meetings, people with people. The other hand, in production environments, people controlling machines, robotics, and in some cases, some of those machines and robotics controlling other robotics and machines. In certain cases, those things are already in place. So for instance, if you look to the resource and energy companies, they're heavily using drones, or in the agriculture environment. Right now, maybe at the first stage, companies who are, so to say, sending parcels, they think about how to use drones for that. All great, but think about the next level. Think about multiple drones interacting with each other, building a team and having a team, let's say, identity.
For energy companies, for instance, it's very helpful. Instead of having one drone and you need to drive along a pipeline, and each 10 kilometers you need to stop with your car, and then you're sending the drone to go 5 kilometers right, 5 kilometers left, depending on the reach of the drone. You could have a set of drones, 10 drones, for instance. And instead of driving around all the time and stopping and starting, stopping and starting, you're just sending the drones, and number one drone controls number two controls three, and so on. It's a great way of saving time. It's a great way of saving energy. And if done in the right way, you get your results even faster. Okay, AI. This is something everybody on the one hand is really curious to learn about. On the other hand, probably scared. And yes, it can be both, right? The question is how responsible we are acting and behaving with AI. So AI as such is firsthand not dangerous. But the matter is, what are your, so to say, programming into the AI? And that means it's still up to us to define how AI should act. That's number one. Number two, there are a lot of ethical questions, but also simple day-to-day questions I would like to quickly address here. So an assistant, you're going to a web page and you want to check something out, you want to buy something for Christmas, and yeah, maybe you're still thinking, after a minute, a chatbot is interacting with you. So great. And you figure out you need to ask something. That chatbot hopefully is working in a way that it's giving you the answers. At a certain point of time, the chatbot is not able to answer because you have a very specific question. Usually, you either then interact in a written way with the people being in the background, or if a modern chatbot is there, it's handing over you to a real person talking to you. Now, for some people, children or elderly people, today technology can be done in a way that they don't even recognize whether it's a real person or not. That's a really strange thing. Now, the question is that good that they don't even recognize this is not a real person and then this is a real person? Or is it better that people are recognizing that because they would interact in a different way? Those are really interesting questions which are not solved yet, and they have a little to do with the technology, but at the end, this is again behavior, culture, and how we interact with each other. Another question in that space, for instance, autonomous cars. So great, we don't have to drive. Equally, there's a lot of AI built into those cars. And let's not talk about the way everything is going straight and everything is fine. Let's talk about the way there's a situation that two cars being autonomous cannot prevent to crash into each other.
I'm very sorry, but we can't go into the details of mobility. We have to
it's okay.
Finish this slot in a minute. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So those are questions which need to be solved. And again, it's not just about technology. This is again also how you're using technology, right? It's up to the humans controlling the technology in the right way. We can go to the next slide and just quickly touching the platform topic. Now, nowadays we're using applications. Great. Looking forward to the future, you can inject new capabilities and technology elements into different environments. And the way to do it is CPaaS platforms, because you're providing modular services, APIs, SDKs, everybody can use. And you can distribute those elements into different environments. So you increase your flexibility and you get a higher use of what you're doing, which means you can reach more of your customers, more of your employees. So this is, of course, a big topic, which we cannot go into detail at all today, that's for sure. That's why I would say we can leave that for the breakout session, where we talk about technology. And we can come to my conclusion slides, which is kept fairly simple. Number one, technology, of course, is important, already stated, but technology alone doesn't solve anything. So it's always customer-centric, analyzing challenges, and then finding a solution. It's only that way. Also keep in mind, the greatest technology is not able to help you. It's always a balance of mastering existing technologies, serving the experience of your customers, of your clients, and balancing that with some highlights with innovation. And finally, put your customer at the center. It's about experience, technology, commercials, behavioral rules, and all together, they have to serve the customer needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jan Hickisch. I think this is really an appetizer. This is an overview, and we could have many, many days of deep dives into these technologies. And I think many of them we will see emerge and we will see become the new normal during the next years, perhaps even during the next months. One of these technologies is artificial intelligence. You already mentioned it. And this is the perfect cliffhanger to our third presentation by Stefan Schennach. He will have a specific focus on artificial intelligence and labor markets. So, how does this go together? Is this friend or foe? And what's the role of policymakers? Stefan Schennach, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello to all, wherever you take part in this webinar. I'm a policymaker in the Austrian Parliament and also in the Council of Europe. And I'm one of the elected members of Council of Europe from Austria. And my work changed dramatically in the last months because normally I was every week in another country in Europe. And you know, the Council of Europe is much more bigger than the European Union. We have only 2.5 countries are not member. From Europe, in Council of Europe is Belarus because they have the death penalty. Vatican, they have a very unorthodox kind to elect the head of the state. And the third is half member, it's Kosovo. And my problem, or the problem of an international organization, is how we can work, how we can decide, how we can elect. For example, the Council of Europe, the members like me, we are the only parliament who elect judges, the judges for the European Human Rights Court. How we can do that in time of now. But why I was invited to participate is because I made a report about AI and the labor market, friend or foe. Fact is that it's a major innovation and a transformation in life and in work. And on the other hand, a lot of people want to decide which technology we are using for the future. Not all technologies are helpful, but in fact, we have 3 technologies which has a very hard impact on the labor market. It's on one hand robots, on the other hand digitalization, and then the third part, it's the artificial intelligence. And a lot of institutions are working now on that. For example, OECD, ILO, WHO, the European Commission, also the World Bank, or the Council of Europe Human Commissioner, as the Commissioner for Human Rights. All in all, if you comes from the perspective of labor market and you have to see the social rights and the workers' rights, you may be worried, and I'm worried about that. That is a fact. And and what we have to look, we have to look at, for example, the European Commission, a high-level group made an oversight, a human oversight, made a technical safety, personal data governance, transparency, diversity, and non-discrimination, and societal and government well-being and accountable. This is all together. We have to put in those perspectives, and the previous speaker just started to speak about the ethical aspects. One of these ethical aspects, we can have the next slide, please. The Council of Europe built this ad hoc committee on artificial intelligence. And we have to make comprehensive standards setting instruments. And there are different way, because normally science and big companies are always running first. So they are sitting in the Ferrari on the highway, and the politics are sitting on the tractor and try to be first before the Ferrari comes to the next corner. And so there we have different works. For example, the high-level expert group from the European Commission, to the policy guidelines from OECD, and also ILO, the title is International Labour Organization, is working on the future of the work. And what we need are national strategies for responsible AIs. And that means there are a lot of risk. We have to see the chances, which makes the life easier and the work easier, but we see also the risk, especially in the case of Tata. And this is maybe one of the most serious things, but we are losing jobs and jobs and jobs. And this is something where politics has to react. For example, if you replace humans and you have not the adequate jobs, then you are running in a social revolution, and that is one fact. And at the moment, we have a very critical time. We lost so many jobs by the pandemic, and now we have also a technology which kills job. One of the most important that we have in the future, work with freedom, dignity, economic security, and equality. And we have also potential rise incoming and wealth inequality as a result of increased automatization. Whatever we saw in the last months, it's a high risk for women, for example, to stay at home in home office, have at the same time children, and you have to work. That we overpreached in the past to give everybody the chance and not to be reduced. And what we also saw in the last months by e-education, that we lost more than 50% of the children, where the teachers was not connecting with them, and it was not the children which are the best, it was the children who need special support. And but also the study of the incoming study of the European Parliament will emphasize the disproportionate impact on young people and the minorities. That we should not forget, that we get a big gap, and at the end we have different studies that we lose between 30 and 49% of the jobs we know now. And this makes us very, very worried. Now we can go to the next. It's going on by the ethical aspects of AI in relation to the human work. There could be manipulation of human decisions. This is a fact, and we have to be aware. And maybe not of all of you are very familiar with the work of Council of Europe, but Council of Europe protect the people by conventions. And the conventions move into the national law and or in the constitution, and now the Council of Europe decided to make a convention on artificial intelligence, and we made different reports. We see what is possible in the medicine sector, but we see also the situation of algorithm and the dangers of algorithm, and working, and so we also human rights and Tata. And so from all those sides, we put a lot of input now, and we are working on this convention. And this should be an open convention. That means not only for the member states, also for all countries in the world. And in different conventions, a lot of other countries, African, American countries, Asia countries, are member of those conventions. The next point is violation of human dignity and safety, and the breach of equal opportunities and the perpetuation of bias or discrimination. These are all very important aspects which we have to discuss and also to decide in the field before we come to this convention. And what this is my mission also, to say, yes, we have a lot of chances. Yeah? And in politics, we have also to support new science and technology, but we have to take care for the humans and all. And also we see that sometimes how I can say, sometimes it's better, it's not a direct dialogue because you cannot make a discrimination. But on the other hand, what we saw, for example, in Vienna, that in the labor service pushed out all the women up above 40 years old. And this could not be in reality what we want on the social factor. Now we can go. Yes, I see. I will make a conclusion in a very short way. What we need is creativity and a social intelligence, and we have to preserve the employability also in the new area. But how we can transform jobs, I understand that with digitalization, 4 million new jobs, but those who are losing their jobs now, are they able to jump in those 4 millions? I see. What we don't want, that we leave persons behind and we lose persons. So we have to find on a bright social platform to keep so many as possible in jobs, but keep also all the political and the ethnic level which we need. So that is in the first, and in the smaller group we can go deeper into that. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Stefan Schennach. So we have now 3 perspectives: one perspective of leadership, one perspective of technology, and one perspective of policy. Some of you already wrote questions into the chat. We will try to revisit them. Some of them were already answered by others, so there were already some conversations coming up. What I would like to take up is the question about skills. Skills that has been mentioned by Stefan Schennach, skills that have been addressed also by Sabine Aigner, and Jan Hickisch also addressed certain kind of skills. So let me first ask Sabine Aigner, what kind of skills do we need now in these times? What kind of new skills, or are they just different? Are they just adapted?
I think you're adapted. Yeah, there can't be anything super new, but I think the prioritization is the secret is in the prioritization and in the openness. Yeah, to deal also to balance between rational, commercial, business elements, organizational discipline. Yeah, and you really ask for performance, so the hard factors. But I think you also need to really listen more carefully, to really be interested, to really honestly share your own concerns. You are not the hero, yeah, who can stand in front of the team, because this situation is new to everyone. And it's a time when it's making people more successful, I think, if they admit that they don't know an answer now. So this is my summary.
Stefan Schennach, you also brought up the question of skills. Is it just about empowering people for the work they've already done, or do we have a massive shift from a large part of workforce from one type of work to the other?
This is the problem. On one hand, we need education from the early beginning. Yeah? Especially in IT, we are researching in India because there are the specialists, and we don't have them in that way in Austria or in Europe. And but if you go to a supermarket and you have a look to all the women who are at the cash board, mostly are alone educating women with migration background. And so how you will transfer them? Or I can go in a higher segment, go to the pharmacies, one pharmacy after the next. And to be pharmacist was in the past a secure job. But the pharmacies are changing by robot techniques. In my pharmacy, there was 19 employees. Now there are only 6 because they rented the apartment above the pharmacy, and there are now the robots running, and you have only 3 or 4 women as welcome service, which give the order to the robots. So maybe they have all a university background. Maybe we can find other solutions for them, but when you will have the automatic driving of cars, then you get the next number of people who are jobless. It's not only your private car. Don't forget, this is also a big working place.
Mm-hmm. So I heard someone saying, when you can describe your job on 10 pages, it will be gone in 10 years. So don't try to write too short job descriptions. You have to write very lengthy job descriptions to avoid that. Question to Jan Hickisch: Is artificial intelligence, are all these technologies job killers?
No, not necessarily. It's about shifting people, resources, upskilling, side skilling. And I think what is really important, don't fear the change, be open, because as long as you're able to learn to adopt, you're curious enough to explore new things, it will be very helpful for you. And again, the question is, do you really want to continue with the one and only job you have for 10 years, for 20 years? Or is there something about it to explore something new? So this is something which is also an educational task, clearly, right?
There was a question of Julia Bubolini in the chat box that I would like to take up and to ask Stefan Schennach, because she asks, taxes on human work feed our welfare system. Should we tax robots, as Bill Gates suggests? What are EU governments doing on this? So are there any kind of initiatives in European level, Council of Europe, or national level that you're aware of about taxing AI, taxing robots, taxing ICT, instead of taxing labor workforce?
We have an agreement in our society. Companies and employees pay tax. And with those tax, we have to support health, infrastructure, education, and what else. And what we see, there is a big lack by tax. International companies are not paying tax. Every coffee house in Vienna has to pay back tax, but not Starbucks. If you go to Windows or other, that is inequality, and it breaks the social agreement which we have. And but I'm one who is in favor to have a tax on robotics, because if robotics replace human workers, so we have to find a system where we get also tax from this technology. And somebody else asked me what I think about income without jobs.
Universal basic income, absolutely right. Yeah.
Income, yeah. That was a funny thing, because I'm skeptical, because a lot of persons take their own way of life in together with jobs. Every job I did made a part of me. But if we have a society where 50% has a job and get money from the job and 50% get the basic income, it's a new kind of inequality. But I understood the idea. And in the Council of Europe, I was some years the chair of the big social economy, health, and sustainable committee. And then the Italian brought out a report about the basic income. And the woman which made this report was not anymore here. So I had the duty to represent this report to the plenary. And it was, that was, if your heart is half in favor and half skeptical, and then you saw the plenary and you see how hateful the people and react. So I put all what I had to be in favor of this report, and finally I won. So I can tell you, we have an adopted version of basic income. And I wrote also in the chat that Finland makes one project with basic income, and it shows it can work. And but it was a limited project, and I understood all those countries with a very high level of young people unemployment, that they have to think about that. And Italy, Spain, and Greece are three of those countries who are working on that. And I think a kind of basic income will come, not tomorrow, not in 2 years, but it will come.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. In a broader perspective, I think what we talk about is also the question, how does life and work to go together, how to deal with work-life balance. Sabine Aigner, have you experienced any kind of shift in values, any shift on the priorities during this time of crisis? So has this been a time where it was more of the same in a more efficient way, just in front of Zoom, or has there been a shift in the perception of what is important in life, also among leaders, among their team members, or are we just in an emergency situation?
I think I can only build on assumptions. We haven't tested that. So having said this, I think what people report is one thing, that days, hours, nights and days, weekends and working days, it's all a flow. And this is also a difficulty to structure that, which is a different topic, but it's so difficult to prioritize and you structure your day. So in an essence, I haven't heard many questions about balance and change of values, because I think the other phenomenons, have taken over. And as I said, it's the uncertainty, what the future will look like, the isolation or the crowded flat. So the situation, how to deal with it. Practical questions. I think I haven't watched too many philosophic discussions about that. It will come again, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. When we talk about these issues of work-life balance, we talk about job losses, this touches upon responsibility issues. So there are technologies out there, a lot of technologies, and how do we apply them? In which context, in which way? This all has to do with responsibility. And data and surveillance and data is just one aspect. What are the most important responsibility issues, Jan Hickisch, that came across in your communities? What is discussed being responsible, and what is discussed being, well, risky, and what is beyond this societal border to say, yes, we could do that, but I think we shouldn't? Is there any kind of limit where you would say, in your communities, in your IT communities, we know we can do it, but we shouldn't do that because of responsibility?
Yeah, so for sure there is that area of ethical decision making for AI algorithms. This is something which is, you could even say, an untouched area yet, or at least it's not that published yet. So for instance, that example with who's making that decision when two cars crashing into each other, and it's obviously known that one car will have a really just an accident, nobody is going to survive. So you have to make a decision who of the people sitting in the one or the other car is facing that situation, right? So that is something which is really, really difficult. You could also say we don't want to make that decision, and you have just a random algorithm. So for sure, that's not a good idea, right? And so there we go beyond borderlines where we are still, I would say, altogether unclear how to handle that in future, right? So there, this is really about giving rules, finding ways from regulation from government to set, so to say, to put stakes into the ground where we say, this is what we are able to handle. And then it's about talking and investigating how far do we want to go. There are simple examples, and maybe we go back to a simple example everybody is going to face, right? How do you control how long people are working each day in this situation? You're at home, you have no threshold, you're working from the morning, getting up at 6, going to bed at 11 or so. There should be a way of controlling people. Now other people are coming up. I don't want to be controlled because it's my privacy. So here we are talking about ways that the technology is giving insights, not necessarily to everybody, but it would be already sufficient that you get your health profile, your working profile for your view at the end of your day. And this application, whatever it is recommending to you, that was far too much today. You didn't walk at all. You didn't get fresh air. That is already something really good everybody can make use of. Now, when we talk about, do you want to consolidate the data? Do you want to use that for the company to control how people should work? Here we're getting again into very dangerous, in a very dangerous place, because it's privacy data. And again, you have to come up with rules, workers' council issues, and so on. So again, there's a lot of work waiting for us in that space, but it would be a very good start if you would be able to provide the technology to put a mirror in front of you so that you on your own better understand what you're doing and that you can make your own decisions to improve your situation.
How far are
Can
we
I add
away
one
from?
sentence?
Yeah, sure. Please, Stefan, please.
Responsibility by your own, there is a big problem. We pushed so many people in home office, and we have no rules and rights for workers who are at home. In Germany, for example, the boss of a company can visit you at home. He has the right because he's responsible for your working place and have to look if everything is follow the instructions. So we have at the moment not, and we need it. And for example, the Austrian government said they will set up those after March next year. It's too late. And when I spoke before about the risk for women, there is a big risk, and there is also the right of workers to have communication, real communication in a company. We see that by crowd work. If you got a part of something, you don't know what is the end. And that should be also your right, that you know for what you are voting to be part of the crowd work.
Let me ask Herrn Hickisch one question. How far is it science fiction that we might have some kind of AI observing when we work at home, observing when we look into the screen, observing when we look into the camera, observing what we type in, but not reporting this in full data set, but just calculating some key performance indicators for your boss, saying, okay, and it's agreed upon with a labor union, as it's agreed upon working hours with a labor union. So it's just a few parameters. Is this the future? Is this the present? Will this be technologically wise easy to do? And what do you think that people would then swallow this bitter pill because of health reasons, because of work-life balance reasons, and at the same time, they install a kind of all-day surveillance in their homes? Is this just crazy Black Mirror future, or is this already today?
Hopefully I'm not scaring you now, because that is all available already.
Okay.
That is, from a technology point of view, you can easily document when you're starting your computer, what you're opening, what URLs, web pages you're serving, when your video cam gets activated. All that is already documented on your machine, so to say. Now, there are certain softwares which are really great in doing that, and I'm not going to promote any of those. But yes, so with a simple installation, certain things can be done. If you look to Apple devices, the health application on the Apple device is already doing that to a great extent as well. Again, it's right now for your personal use, and that's fine. But again, on the computer, depending on what computer you have, depending whether your company is installing an additional software, which may require Workers' Council approval, all those things can be documented. And then the question is, and what are we doing with this data? If it's just on your own for an emergency case on your computer, that might be okay. If it's getting aggregated, you need to know better. You should know what gets aggregated and who is going to read it. Again, in what cases. So again, there is the need for regulating this. From a technology point of view, it is there and it can be used.
Mm-hmm. Well, this reminds me of the other story that I thought that it was Black Mirror, that there are hundreds of workers in Sweden who already have under the skin devices instead of key cards. So they just have it under the skin of the hand, and with these under the skin devices, they can open the doors, and they're so super happy because they can't lose the key card anymore. Well, I think they would need a knife to ensure that their private life begins, but they were reporting that they're so super happy about it. So the question to Stefan Schennach, is technology much further than our societal debate right now? Will we be astonished? Would citizens, would policymakers be astonished to hear, oh, this is already happening?
No, we know that it's
much
further,
okay,
and much more used. And Mr. Hickisch is right, that it's all possible. And maybe you should ask a question, answer a question of Christian Vogelauer, who asked for your university, if you can check the exams
sure.
they made.
They are. Yeah, they are. I know. This is why I came across it. This was the question, do they cheat? So this is facial recognition, eye movement recognition during exams while you're doing their exam at home. Salzburg University, as far as I know, forces you to move the camera around your flat and to put the camera even under your table so that nobody's sitting there. But I think the problem is you deal with 1,000 students trying to fill in a multiple choice test while they're at home. So how to do that?
I know. I made also exams with my students, which could not be real present. And when the students wrote their exams, they was connected with on Skype, and they have to promise what that all for all is the same level, but I think it worked, but we cannot check it. But you are right, the policy is behind. And you remember my picture about Ferrari and tractor. This is the real situation, and what we need is national strategies and really lawmaking, and not that we are surprised by data leak, misuse of data, and it's also the question. I think we discussed this question since 30 years in Austria about the tax of robots, and I see no light at the end of the tunnel in this question. But by outrunning of budgets, I think it will come.
Before going into the smaller groups, you already said what we need. We need strategies, we need taxes for robots. The same question to Jan Hickisch. What do we need?
Yeah, that's a good point. The commercial aspect of how to use technology is something which I think requires further evolvement. When I was quickly just touching on the CPaaS element, this integration capability, what are you paying for? You don't have anything you touch because it's somewhere integrated. So even in that case, you need already to count certain things, and then there is a consumption-based use, right? And okay, you know, from the past, you bought something, you pay a yearly fee to get it maintained and so on. Then we came across the cloud, we have subscription, which is state of the art today. Now, do you really use it all the time? No, you want to consume it when you really need it. The next level is commercialization of those things based on the success you have with it. So it's not just a kind of, yeah, I get all months I get all that money. No, I just get the money when I really successfully help my customer. Now, in regards to that, that is the question: how do we kind of create a commercial model for those software elements, for AI, for answer, maybe for if you successfully get an answer which helps you, you're getting credit points or you're getting money for that. That is something, again, there's a huge field where we need to explore and find out how to make that work. And then the question is, do we then still talk about cash, or do we talk about data and we exchange data with other data? This is another scary thing, which yeah, we could talk hours about that. But this is something which we will face in future.
But this reminds me of one expert that I talked to who said, well, if somebody's making money out of my data, it should be me. So giving back at least the profit that comes out of data to the ones who own the data. Sabine Aigner, what do we need in a nutshell?
What do we need in a nutshell in order to navigate what?
Yeah.
The next months or the long term?
Well, perhaps the long term. The next month will be emergency and everybody's looking for the new vaccine, and then everything will go back to normal. And this will be the new normal to a certain extent. So what do we need?
I think vision. Keep the vision, because we were very transactional, I think, I'm afraid. Yeah. So we left the strategies behind because we needed to concentrate to survive. So I think we need, to think in various layers and include the visionary thinking once again and give it more priorities. So vision, courage to get things done, and a straightforward direction. Yeah. And transparency and an authentic approach towards your people as a leader.
Thank you very much. So what we prepared now is the following. We prepared some breakout sessions. Before that short advertisement, we will continue this kind of dialogue. Second week of February, we will run a similar event as today on trust, surveillance, and AI. So we will have a deep dive on this, what we mentioned before, how to ensure trust in virtual teams, what is the opportunity and also the risk of surveillance, and how can AI come in. We will have 3 presenters, Kirsi Maria Blomqvist, who's professor at Lapinranta University in Finland. She worked for many, many years on the issue of trust in online communities. Harald Katzmeier, who is founder and director of FAS Research in Vienna, a company specialized on network analysis, and he will talk about how the corona crisis affected trust in networks. And we're still looking for a third expert, an expert on surveillance technologies in remote working. So if this is you, potentially, just send me an email and you will be the third one. We still look for an expert on responsible artificial intelligence. Now, what comes next? Yes, you're invited to register for sure at the livinginnovation.net community platform. This is the way to keep in touch. If you made your way to any kind of other LinkedIn profile, friend of a friend of a friend email, please don't forget to register at this platform. This is the way we can link up with you, and it makes our life much easier if you register there, because then we can send you invitations. Otherwise, we have to send you LinkedIn messages and so on, and that's very tricky. So please don't forget about that. This is the way we stay in touch. And now what comes next is conversations. We prepared 8 virtual Zoom meeting rooms. Each of them will be facilitated. These are the topics, and our 3 keynote speakers will also go into one of these rooms. So Sabine Aigner, where will you go to? This will be room number?
Will be in room number 6.
Room number 6. So that's about skills, future leaders. If you want to talk to Sabine Aigner, you go to room number 6. If you're interested into skills, go to room number 6. Jan Hickisch, what will be your room of choice, your conversation of choice?
Yeah, technology. So conversation number 1.
Number 1. So if you want to continue the debate with Jan Hickisch, go to room number 1. And if you're interested in responsible use of these technologies. And Stefan Schennach, what is your conversation?
I go to number 7, how to ensure
that nobody gets lost. So this is where you will find the keynote speakers. If you're interested into the other areas, or you're an expert in this area, please go to these rooms. How can you find the rooms? Well, it's very easy. There is a link. We put this link also into the chat box. This is where you can find the links. And if you continue, next slide, it brings you exactly to our website. On our website, the news section, and if you scroll down the news section, as shown here, there you can click. This is the point where you find, you don't need the Ken code, you just click there, and this is where we see each other again in smaller conversations, where it's easier to talk, where it's easier to have a chat. If you want to see us in a bigger environment again, see you beginning of February with a deep dive on trust, artificial intelligence, and responsible surveillance. I would like to thank our keynote speakers, and now we move to these conversations. Thank you very much. Goodbye.